Indeed. Now, Ed Gemmell, who is leader of the Climate Party, has phoned in. Ed, very good evening. I imagine that you've got all the answers to our previous caller.
Oh, gosh, I don't think I've got all the answers to all of those. And there was some detail in there, of course. Just dealing with one of the things, which is the intermittency of our power and whether we have to turn it off and everything else. And I would like to come on to the bigger issues of reform and what Graham Stewart was saying. But just in that, one of the biggest things we've failed to do in the UK is invest in tidal power. I mean, we've got 20 gigawatts of tidal power. Let's stick with wind power for a moment, because that was really what Rob was raising. I mean, why is it that, and I suspect that you're right and he's right, that we haven't had the long-term planning to store the energy, and so the wind turbines have to be switched off from time to time, even if there's wind available? Yeah, there's no getting away from the fact the grid's got to upgrade. I mean, that's absolutely a fact, and we can't get it from the places we're producing it and get it to the places that we need it. We've got to spread it, have it further around the country, have it closer to the places we need it. I mean, imagine the grid as a tree, and you've got all these branches coming off it, and then all these twigs. And as the twigs go off it, if each twig is generating, and then trying to shovel it back to the centre of it and get it back out to the twigs on the other side, currently the system doesn't work. So our system was created so that it could be created at the trunk and then pushed out along the branches and into the twigs. And we haven't got the tech done to turn it the other way around. It's happening, and let's believe Labour and the grid. It's all going to be done in the next 3 to 5 years, but it's not there yet. So I think we have to accept that.
Well, let's move on to what Reform UK have been saying, which obviously you're going to completely disagree with, but they will be tapping into some people in the electorate who are fed up with what they perceive as the extra costs of net zero.
Yeah, they are, but they're tapping into it because they want to bash net zero and get rid of it. And one of the things that Richard Tice said, which I just thought was absolutely bizarre, is he went and said that we've got net zero causing the deindustrialization of Britain. Sorry, net zero only became a concept in 2008. It only became ingrained in law as 100% net zero in 2019. And the drop in our manufacturing on a basis of GDP has gone from about 9.5% to about 8.5% in that time. Whereas in actual fact, if we go back 100 years or even back to the 1970s, a third of our GDP came from manufacturing and industry. So we have been outsourcing and effectively giving out to China and everybody else all of our productive capacity for decades. Net zero has not caused it at all. It happens to be something that the Chinese are good at now. They're doing all the solar panels, the wind turbines. They are processing and producing all of the rare earth metals and minerals. They're dominating battery technology and EVs. So it is true that they're doing it all now, but this has been going on for decades. And the thing, and I've said this to Richard Tice to his face a couple of times, is it's exactly the opposite of what Richard Tice says. We have at the moment an economy which is gradually declining. We've currently got a government in talking about growth, but still they're managing the decline in our economy, which has been going on for many, many years. If we want to turn that round, if we want to grow our economy, we've got to create a big mission, a big industrial strategy, something we can all get behind. And if we were sitting down, you and I, to create what that industrial strategy would be, we'd be saying, right, what are the biggest mega trends in the world? Where can we do something where everyone else is going to want what we're doing? And there's probably two. One is AI, and the Chinese and the Americans dominate that. And the second one is net zero. 93% of world economies under a commitment to get to net zero now. That is the direction of travel. Yes, there'll be bumps in the road. Yes, there'll be Donald Trump coming in and saying he's going to roll back on a few things, but that is the direction of travel.
Yes, but to be fair to the last government, to be fair to this government, I mean, this country is a leader in net zero, and yet other countries aren't following.
Yeah, but I think you're talking about it in somewhat the way that Graham Stewart was talking about it earlier, in the altruistic sense. So if what we're seeing is that we need to get there because it's of a great benefit to the world, and I agree it is, and then we're doing it at a pace where we're trying to inspire the rest of the world, why not look at it as the biggest business opportunity on the planet? And if we're going to do that, we're already going to go there in the next 25 years. By 2050, we'll be at net zero. will have spent a large amount of money. Climate Change Committee has suggested around 1% of GDP per year. Well, why don't we do something that's really going to help us? Let's bring it forward. Let's get the entire investment done in 5 years or 6 years. Let's get it done by 2030. The whole lot. War footing to get it done, and then 2 decades of exports. Decades. And I've chatted with a number of the world's countries' top economists about this. The investment we'd be putting in over the next 5 years, and it wouldn't necessarily have to come from the government, would vastly grow the economy, just like if we ever get round to building all these houses, but it would do much more, hugely grow the economy. And then having got there, in the 2030s and the 2040s, we would have everything that the rest of the world needs.
Yeah, but you know as well as I do that one of the big barriers to that at the moment is the planning system. Now, to be fair to the Labour government, they seem to be absolutely determined to, forgive the pun, but bulldoze their way through that and abolish a lot of the current restrictions. Well, good luck to them in that, I say, because Michael Gove wanted to do that, never was allowed to do it by his party. So I hope Angela Rayner can achieve that, because as we heard from Rob from the Shetlands there, if he's right on these battery farms that are going to be built in the borders, they're being held up by red tape and planning. So if you can get through that, then there's a prospect of doing what you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Although talking about and I agree with you. So there's no contradiction here. I mean, we've definitely got to deal with the planning system. I also feel within the planning system we have this issue of everybody not wanting it done, next door to their house or whatever it would be. But I think that's partly because we're not all on the same page. We can't see the vision of where we're going in Britain. There is no vision. If there was a real vision showing us that there would be prosperity coming for British people, we all believed it and we're all going to go for it and work for it, I think a lot of the people that are objecting to stuff would pragmatically get out of the way.
I think you're underestimating what has actually been achieved, in that I think apart from Sweden, we have reduced our carbon emissions by more than any other European country over the last 30 years. Now, that's something that nobody seems to shout about. I think that's an incredible achievement, frankly, and it's something that the environmental movement, of which you're part of, I think ought to acknowledge a bit more than it does.
Yes, I do acknowledge it, and we do shout about it. I think the point, though, is that to take everybody with us on the future, it is quite clear that we can combine net zero and huge growth. And that doesn't mean growth, smokestacks destroying our countryside. It means clean growth. It means growth that's going to take us into these next decades. So it's not about saying we haven't done a good job, although there is the issue of obviously consumptive emissions that we don't take into account when we're looking at it. But what we need to be doing is saying we've already done a good job. We're intending to get to 81% there by 2035. Why not do the whole job now and then see an upside, a commercial upside that puts money in our pockets, that grows our industry and sees us becoming the great power in the new clean industrial revolution.
Because you have no mainstream politician who has the courage to say something like that. Labour nearly got there when they had their £28 billion plan for green energy, and that's been whittled away down to about £9 billion. But what you need is a Nigel Farage of the environmental movement to actually explain it to people in a passionate, knowledgeable way that people can actually relate to. And I'm afraid that person has never appeared. Although, judging by the comments on my WhatsApp screen here, Ed, you are that man. The people love you, what you've been saying.
We're trying. And we've got a lot of other people who are trying it as well. It's not just me. There's a whole lot of people behind me. We're in that direction.
While you've been talking, I pressed the silent button and said to my producer, get this guy on cross questions. So hopefully we can have you on in the studio very soon. Thank you very much indeed. That's Ed Gemmell, leader of the Climate Party, who